Tracy recently was nominated to Leadership Atlanta. He holds a bachelor's degree from Harvard University, a master's degree in administration for nonprofit management from the University of Notre Dame. He resides in Atlanta with his two dogs, Lucy and Baggy, who he does bring into the office on occasion. So please, at this time, will you help me in welcoming Tracy Elliott to AEN?
The AIDS epidemic rages on here in our own community and all around the country and in our own particular community. So my goal tonight is, when I finish, that you will agree with me, if you don't already, and not superficially, but deeply and in your gut, that the fight against AIDS and the death and suffering that it still visits upon our community is still our fight. And I intend to proffer 4 reasons why. Number 1, AIDS forged the modern LGBT community and catalyzed our fight for equality. Number 2, we mobilized and largely constituted the original army in this fight. And we invented and created the field armaments of the battle. Number 3, AIDS still threatens us. It is a different threat than it used to be, but it is still a formidable enemy. And number 4, this battle, which we joined when no one else would, should be looked upon as our opportunity to create a beloved community. It is our gift and legacy to the world. So now let's talk about what we gave to the world in response to AIDS. As I mentioned, we came out of the ghettos and bars to demand action and to insist that the world not ignore the worst epidemic in history just because it raged most fiercely among a marginalized people. But while we were marching and shouting, we also began to come together, along with compassionate straight allies and friends, to care for our afflicted brothers and sisters. And while we did not do it alone, and we must always honor our allies who stood with us, it simply would not have been done without us. Picture it. A marginalized, dismissed, disenfranchised, suffering people, considered by the wider world to be powerless and inconsequential, built in half a decade an entire industry, a whole and complete social enterprise that has no equal, frankly, in the history of the world as a response to a social crisis. From silence to significance in an instant. Thousands and thousands of people who would have died alone and abandoned instead transitioned to the next life enveloped in love and compassion. Thousands and thousands of people who would have been hungry and homeless and hopeless in their final days in this life were fed and housed and maintained the dignity and humanity which is their birthright. And thousands more would have died but for the programs and services of this enterprise, but they were instead sustained long enough for the drugs to be developed that saved their lives. Let's further consider the recent announcement by the CDC that HIV cases among young gay men in the United States are increasing 12% annually. Gay men were the only risk group that experienced annual increases in infection rates from 2001 to 2006. The only risk group. So we are passionately committed throughout the organization, from the board, staff, throughout the organization, to opening our doors wide. And we have even more exciting and innovative plans than that will convince you of our commitment. But all of this is going to depend upon money and whether we can engage you in this vision. AIDS Atlanta cares deeply about the health and well-being of the LGBT community. We were born of and have been sustained by this community. And we feel deeply that we are an essential component and a vital resource for the LGBT community, and we will be so until the end of AIDS. The fight against AIDS was and still is a struggle at its core for justice. A fight against discrimination and stigma. A fight for the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, even though there's a virus in your blood, and even though you may just happen to be different. Poor, gay, black, transgender, disabled, or just plain queer. That fight, as I hope I've convinced you tonight, is our unique contribution the larger struggle for a just society. It's our imprimatur on the beloved community. So we need to deeply believe that no matter who is today's or tomorrow's victim of AIDS, no matter which communities are in the current at-risk categories, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The L's and the G's and the B's and T's and the T's of Atlanta must recognize that in the beloved community is our cause. It is in it is the justice that we seek. And because the achievement of the beloved community requires that we embrace the profound truth that we are, as Dr. King said, bound together in a single garment of destiny. The AIDS fight, even if AIDS were never again to afflict one of us,